on this. What led the Browns? What are you guys hearing that led the Browns to go ahead and make this move on Shedeur?
Well, Reese, I think in the pre-draft build-up, a lot was made of how many times the Giants met with Shedeur Sanders and how often they met with him. The Browns did their work too. They met with him at length at the Shrine game, East-West. Then at the Combine, they met with him. Then they had him in at the top 30. And at his pro day, they took him and Travis Hunter out to dinner. And let me tell you the people at that meeting: Andrew Berry, Kevin Stefanski, Musgrave, Tommy Reese, Paul DePodesta, Jimmy Haslam, J.W. Johnson, the son-in-law of Jimmy Haslam. They all met with him and they felt comfortable. And at a certain point, which I believe Field Yates said at the table, at 144 in the draft, whether you need a quarterback or not, it is the most important position in all of football. They feel comfortable with him, Adam, and they are happy to have him in that quarterback.
And let me tell you about two relationships that I think were important here. Number one, Jimmy Haslam. Deion Sanders, Shedeur Sanders developed a relationship during this process with the Browns owner, Jimmy Haslam, and the Browns quarterback coach is Bill Musgrave. Bill Musgrave and Deion Sanders were teammates together on the San Francisco 49ers, and Deion Sanders considers Bill Musgrave to be one of his guys. And now the Cleveland Browns, who have had one of the messiest, ugliest quarterback situations in the league for years, are taking a whole group of quarterbacks and putting them together. They now have Deshaun Watson. They now have Kenny Pickett. They now have Joe Flacco. They now have Dylan Gabriel. They now have Shedeur Sanders. And the storylines are just beginning because all these quarterbacks are not going to be happy staying in Cleveland. And the Browns also have the Jaguars' first-round pick next year in a quarterback-rich draft, so they're going to have double ones armed to get even more quarterbacks. The Browns have gone from having a lack of quarterbacks to having a surplus of them, and the attention that's been on Shedeur Sanders the past few days is only just beginning, Reese.
Well, the old adage is if you have two quarterbacks, you don't have any. So now they've got a lot of them, and we're going to find out which one is the one. As you look at this, how would you assess Mel? We know what you think of him as a prospect. Now the opportunity in front of him, and how quickly you expect those traits to be able to play, to be the guy, if in fact you think that can happen quickly.
Offensive line, that's critical for Shedeur. Said it when Tom Brady was taken. The offensive line's got to protect him. He's got to have that fortress in front of him, as Brady did, allowed him to have that success. You think about what he had at Colorado. He dealt with adversity. He dealt with a muddy pocket. He done it with everything NFL conditions lead you to have to deal with once you get to the pro level. Then you think about the character. I think this is the misperception. I think the fact of the matter is Deion was a great teammate. Deion practiced hard. They loved him in the NFL. They loved him with the Atlanta Braves in Major League Baseball. Shedeur, he will galvanize. He'll be that kind of guy. So again, the offensive line, if you're talking about the Cleveland Browns, that's the issue, guys. If they can protect him, obviously get the weapons, but up front is where they got to be strong. You allow him to do his job, and he will be a surgeon. He will pick you apart. I mean, you give Shedeur time. He sees the field. He's accurate to all levels, and he is a tremendous competitor, incredibly tough. So, again, durable, having all the hits and took, and never got hurt, okay? And he never running game. Not mention offensive line. He had no running game. So he was out there, and he led them to a winning year. He led them to an upset over TCU when he first got there, first game. Then the wheels came off. That Stanford game when the second half the lead was won with the half. Shedeur Sanders, to me, when you talk about the locker room and the players around him, they love him. Now, the perception from others outside based on what there's the noise, maybe they didn't like what they heard. I don't know how it was handled. You get all the word about this, that, and you think, well, they're just trying to hurt Shedeur. Teams are still throwing it out there. You don't know what was true, what wasn't. How Deion's going to operate. Deion's going to stay out of it. He's not going to be calling or threatening any coaches or saying, or there'll be a threat that Deion could take over. Deion's not happy. Deion's not going to say anything. Deion's going to coach Colorado. So a lot of this stuff, I think, just made no sense to me, kind of the negativity you heard over the last couple months.
The perception, though, that you talked about, that's all until the draft gets going, because it became his reality. The fact is, the 16th player on my board, higher on yours, right around 25 on Matt's board, went 144th overall. We've established a couple of things. We think he has a chance to legitimately compete for the quarterback job at some point in the relative near future. We've also established we like to fit in a Kevin Stefanski-style offense. Here's the question, and Reese, you kind of got us there at the beginning of this conversation. What lessons will be learned? And will they be used effectively to turn him into the player that I think we have some level of confidence across this desk that he can become? If so, this has a legitimate chance to be and this is not hyperbole here, the best value on day 3 so far because it's the most important position in all of teams.
Hit rate the last 31 years for fifth-round picks at quarterback is 0. 0.
It's your guy, though.
0.
Buck the trend.
I'm saying up until now, the last 31 years, okay? Quarterbacks in the 5th round, you want the chart? Here it is, right here. I went back and looked at it.
All right, what do you got?
From 1994 to 2024, it's 31 years. What's that say?
0 for 43.
0 for 43 with a couple still to be determined.
Wow.
Spencer Rattler, one of those guys, still to be determined. Right? 1970 to 1993, hit rate in the 5th round, 19%, right? So, again, 5th round's not the round to get a quarterback. Okay? It hadn't been proven. It was going back to 1970. That's a long time, right? Shedeur Sanders, 5th-round pick. We'll see if he can do something that very few have been able to do.
The aberration, though, probably with a couple of notable exceptions, 5th round or beyond, is that very few quarterbacks were evaluated like this just on the tape.
Right.
At the same level that he
That's the difference, right?
Yeah.
I mean, this isn't a talent issue. This isn't a can-do issue. This transcended that. And that's why I think of anybody on that list that you have of fifth round guys, none of them had the skill set that this young man had. This is not about can you play the position. This is about do we want you to play the position for us. That's what this came.
Why wouldn't they, Lou?
Well, look, that's a whole nother discussion that we've had in many different ways for weeks
I would say
and
that
months
this
now.
is not one of the toughest quarterbacks you've ever.
But Mel, this isn't about
Personality,
this
Mel.
isn't
It
about
has to be.
this isn't about quarterback traits and quarterback characteristics, personal football character. That's not about this. This is personal.
Has he had an
And
off
we
the
know
field?
that
Has
it
he had an
is.
off the field issue? No, he has not.
Mel, you don't have to sell it to me.
No, but
I don't know what we're talking about here.
You're right.
Personality
But
issue?
you're right.
Yes.
You're right. But you know what?
the
But Mel, the draft has spoken.
That's right. That's the key, Mel. It's not putting a value judgment on whether those who
He can
passed
play.
were right or wrong. They did.
Yep.
So now, whenever you're in circumstances in life, whether you like them, whether you don't like them, whether they're fair or whether they're unfair, you might have to deal with them.
That's
and
right.
now Shedeur Sanders has to deal with
and everything-
And for whatever reason, whether he played a minute, microscopic percentage, 0%, or it's a legitimate criticism of the way he conducted himself
Right.
During the draft process, this was the result.
Yeah.
Now he has an opportunity to answer it.
There's not
So, I mean, I think yelling at the NFL about it is not
There's
productive.
not a quarterback that
It happened.
Boomer Esiason was not happy when he was a second-round
Sure.
pick.
Tom Brady
was not
wasn't happy.
They dropped. How'd they turn out?
And you know what? And that's
my point.
Nobody's arguing
my
that
point
can
is
happen.
Reese, the NFL has been clueless for 50 years when it comes to evaluating quarterback. Clueless.
All
They
that-
have no idea what they're doing in terms of evaluating quarterback. That's proof. There's proof of that.
How
So
many
they
ti-
say we know exactly what we're talking about with quarterback. They don't.
Nobody's batted 1,000 there, though.
That's correct.
Right? I mean, I think that's
All that
fair.
matters now is what happens going forward. We talk about it all the time. There is the evaluation phase, there's the evaluation and selection phase, which we're in right now, and then there's the development and implementation phase. That's where we're heading to right now. That's all that matters for him. Kevin Stefanski, Andrew Berry,
And Lou,
have at it.
quarterbacks now, and Reese, you know it well as anybody. College kids now are getting paid. They're professional. They're getting paid. They're commercials. They're out there. You got to deal with that. If you're the NFL, you got to deal with that. Okay? He's saying whatever he's saying behind closed doors. What's he saying? I want to be the guy. I should be this. I should be that. Deion's saying he's the best player in the draft. He's the best quarterback, second